Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Stuart Penny. I'm an importer and distributor of QRS, and I'm going to go into some considerable detail about QRS today. QRS is energy medicine, so we say discover life's energy, and you're going to find today that the human body is electric, and it's very important that we always consider the fact that the body is electric and we are talking about energy medicine. QRS won the Gold Medal Award at the Exhibition of Inventions in Geneva in 1998. It's patented worldwide and there are copies of it. The latest QRS is very difficult to copy, but be aware there are copies of QRS. It was on the Mir space station, and I recently met Professor Dr. Baranov, who intends to put the QRS on the International Space Station, Mars manned flight in 2005. Those astronauts are going to be travelling at 9 kilometres per second for 9 months just to get to Mars. They do their job and come back. One small health problem can become a medical emergency. Well, what is QRS? It's 20 years of German scientific research. It's been commercial for 7 years, and the pace of research is increasing rapidly. We're very heavily involved in clinical trials at the moment. It's a therapeutic appliance to treat humans and animals. It uses a low frequency, low intensity, pulsed electromagnetic field that you can use to treat all or part of the body. Treatment is 1 to 3 times per day, and an average treatment is about 8 minutes, although you can increase the duration up to 60 minutes. And finally, and I'd like to emphasise this, there are no side effects. There have been many millions of therapies applied and there have been no side effects. I must tell you also that there's such a thing as a healing crisis. It's a natural phenomenon that occurs in homeopathics. And a healing crisis can mean that you actually revisit health problems, and it's part of the healing process. Well, what's the role of QRS? Well, the Germans invented it as a health management tool for good health, not for sick people. But the fact is, in our culture, people wait until they get sick. And so it's used to correct health problems, treat symptoms at their source, alleviate or heal. It's non-invasive, it's non-chemical, and it's natural. We never say use QRS on its own. We say use it with everything else. So use it with drug-based therapies, with acupuncture, with natural therapies, all therapies. The more power to you. QRS comprises the mat applicator, a pillow applicator for part of the body, and the control unit. And we'll talk about other accessories in a few minutes. In December of last year, we brought out the QRS 101 control unit. It's absolutely fantastic. It has an ABS case, very modern looking. We plug the mat applicator into applicator 1, the pillow into applicator 2, or plug in the pen or anything else like that. Here's for where the power is plugged in, and finally we have a 15-pin bus for biofeedback device, soft laser, and a range of other peripherals. You can see the smart card plugged into the front of it. It just pushes in. To turn the QRS on, we push the on button. It goes through a systems check and reports system OK. It also registers the fact that the home card is in it. If you want a very simple therapy, you can push simply setting 1. And that'll be the basis program for 8 minutes. You can see the cell sensor operating and registering the electromagnetic field. I'll now turn it off. You can hear the beeps at the end of the therapy. And now what we're going to have a look at is a difference between the sensitive, relax, basis programs. So let's look at the cell sensor itself. I'm going to push the sensitive button and see what happens. You can see the needle on the cell sensor is moving a very small amount and there's no sound. That's because the field is only 1/10 of setting 1 of the basis program. I'll now switch it off. I'm going to now put on the relax program on setting 1. See the difference. There's now sound there's a different cadence, and it's quite different to the normal basis program that we're used to. It's very slow, and this is because they've taken out a range of frequencies in the vital area. They've actually cut down the basis program. We'll turn it off, and we're now going to put the basis program on setting 1. Immediately hear the change of cadence, much faster, much more intense. This is the basis program, the basis of all QRS therapy. It represents all the frequencies of the QRS signal. We'll turn that off. And we're going to select the vital program on setting 1. There's even a higher speed of frequency because the vital programs have had taken out of them the relax frequencies. So this is interesting. We'll turn that off now. We don't need the cell sensor anymore. We'll turn this off. All right, on the front of the control unit, you can select the applicator. Here we have applicator 2. We'll go back to applicator 1. That's the mat applicator. We can turn the sound on or off. We can increase the duration up to 60 minutes. We have the sensitive button, which is sensitive 1/10 of setting 1 on the basis program, and that is default of 8 minutes. So let us have a look at our smart card. I have a smart card inserted here, and I'm going to push MIMO, and it says load 1 to 4. That's one of the 4 programs. I'll push 1, and we have now a program running. It's a vital program, setting 8 on applicator 2, that means it's a pillow, and it's counting down from 20 minutes. This is the sort of therapy that you do for osteoarthritis of the knee, for example. And the good thing about it, it's been memorized. And every time you put the card in, and the good place to leave it is store it in the machine. Every time you push MIMO 1, you'll get that program, and you can store up to 4 programs. If I stop it and simply push the MIMO button at any time, with or without the card, if I push the MIMO button, I actually have the card in. We'll take the card out. If I push the MIMO button, it's going to play the previous program. That was the one that was on the card. Now I'll stop this. So let's assume that it's night time. You want to have the mat on. You don't want to have the sound on. You want to scroll through to the relax program. And the final thing you want to do is, let's change the time. We'll change it up to 10 minutes. Last thing you do is push the setting button, and it runs. At the end of the period, no beeps, no sound. And at the end of a further 2 minutes, the control unit will turn itself off. So it's a very important device, and in the future our QRS health practitioners will have a diagnostic device and be able to create a customized home card for clients and patients. So to recap, it has 3 full programs: Basis, Relax, and Vital. Each of those programs has 10 intensity settings. There's a sensitive program because 3 to 5% of people found that QRS was too strong. So the sensitive program is 1/10 of setting 1. Instead of a duration of only 8 minutes fixed, the duration is now 1 to 60 minutes, with 8 minutes being the default. You can plug 2 applicators into the unit, and you can toggle between the 2. Happily, the sound can be turned on and off, and that's excellent for people who want to have a therapy and go to sleep by it. The MIMO button allows you to memorize the last therapy and replay it. It has other functions with a smart card, because the smart card can memorize 4 programs. So if you get fairly complex programs that you're running over long durations, all you need to do is put the card in there and run those programs. The rear of the control unit, there's space for accessories, such as the biofeedback unit, soft laser, light shower, and a whole range of other applications. Well, how does QRS work? The control unit generates a precisely calculated electromagnetic pulse, a patented double sawtooth wave. Now, the length of the pulse is only 2 milliseconds and the pause is only 2 milliseconds. And Professor Dr. Krauss tells me that the length of that pulse and the position of that pulse is just as important as the wave itself. And the wave itself encapsulates every frequency of the body, every cell frequency of the body. And every 2 minutes the polarity changes, so as you can see the wave going up in that slide, so it will turn around and go down towards the ground. And that occurs every 2 minutes. The idea is to ensure that the body can never become used to the electromagnetic field, unlike what happens with static magnets. The intensity of the treatment is adjusted by pushing one of the series of buttons on the control panel. The mat applicator has a loop that generates a magnetic field, a cocoon of quanta, matterless energy. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't put anything into your body. You are lying within an electromagnetic field. It's quanta, it's matterless. And every cell of your body is being influenced by the frequencies contained in that electromagnetic field. So how do I use QRS? After pushing one of the buttons, simply lie on the mat or put the pillow under the affected body part. The control unit will switch off automatically. An electric alarm will sound. If you want it to sound, you can switch it off, of course. The body is electric. Every cell in the body is vibrating at a frequency. If you look to the top left of your screen, you'll see the QRS frequencies range from 0.1 of a hertz to 1,000 hertz. That's 0.1 of a cycle per second to 1,000 cycles per second. That covers all the frequencies of the body. And so top right, you'll see the EEG of the brain is between 1 and 30 hertz, the ECG of the heart, 1.2 to 2 hertz, the organs, components of the body, 3 to 20 hertz. And down the bottom in the center there, you'll see also that the Earth's magnetic field, the Schumann resonance, which steers the hippocampus, is 7.8 hertz. Nerve information is 1,000 hertz. So every cell in your body is vibrating, and we create a resonance effect with those cells. That is the secret to QRS, the resonance effect with the cells. And I might add here, importantly, that only the Earth's magnetic field, their frequencies, the body's frequencies are encapsulated within our electromagnetic field. There is no electromagnetic smog, and in particular amongst that is 50 and 60 hertz. It does not appear in our field. The QRS works on all of your 70 billion or so cells. This is called cell metabolism. Here we have a cell. You see the nucleus of the cell has ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is a culmination of the metabolism process. It's cell energy. You'll also see that the cell has a potential difference across the cell, positive on the outside, negative on the inside. In a healthy person, the cell membrane potential, as we call it, should be of the order of 70 to 90 millivolts. An unhealthy person, maybe 40 to 50 millivolts, and a cancer cell is 20 to 25 millivolts and has no oxygen. It's anaerobic. So what does a QRS do? Well, it reinforces the transmembrane potential, which assists in the uptake of oxygen and the 90 or so nutrients. We talk about the membrane being porous, but it's not really porous. It's a series of gates, and these gates open and close very rapidly, about 100 times per second. And what we do is support the membrane potential to improve the opening and closing of the gates so that the oxygen and nutrients can go through the gates. At the other end of the spectrum, we have waste, carbon dioxide and water, the results of the chemical processes that are occurring in there being put out. There are, again, about 100 chemical processes, chemical reactions occurring every second inside the cell to create ATP. And the waste is discharged. So to recap, QRS restores the membrane potential, opens the membrane pores, increases oxygen and nutrients, and removes waste. It's important now that we have a look at the energy distribution. Half of the energy we produce is just used to support the transmembrane potential. So you've only got half the energy that you created left for your daily functions. And so it's very important when someone has something like chronic fatigue, stress, depression, because they can waste up to 2/3 of that available 50% in just managing their stress and depression. Another vital aspect of QRS is ion transport. Here we see a blood vessel in cross-section, and you can see the lipids on the walls of the blood vessel, and they are of lower pH. We have the chemicals in their ionized form travelling within the vessel, within the fluids, and the difficulty has been how to overcome the surface tension across the cell wall. And this is what the Germans have found. They're able to produce a situation where positive and negative ions are able to cross the vessel wall and be absorbed by cells. And the basis of our patent is the transport of ions out of the electrolytic fluids, both positive and negative, into adjacent cells. There is no other technology that can achieve this. Any other pulsed electromagnetic field device that says it is doing this is infringing our patent. Leading on from there, we have another vital aspect of it called calcium cascade. But before showing you that, let's have a look at what happens in a situation of different amounts of intensity. On the bottom right of your screen, you can see what happens where there's too little intensity. The electromagnetic energy simply bounces off the cell wall. The ions are not transported. Too much energy, there's a creation of too many free radicals. The ions just go straight out the other side, too few nutrients and oxygen, and a decrease in the production of ATP, cell energy. And simply put, on the left-hand side, you can see what happens when you have optimum ion transport from QRS. Calcium cascade is part of the ion transport. And let me explain what happens. It's vital for people with osteoporosis. We actually hop hydrogen ions as part of the ion transport process into cells where they find Ca++, that's calcium, Ca++ bonding with two negative charges. And the two hydrogen ions displace the two negative charges bonding to the calcium. And as a result, Ca++, in other words in its ionized form, moves into the intercellular area where it differentiates. Now it can differentiate into bone cells, into nerve cells, into other cells that require calcium, or it's taken to waste. This is called calcium cascade. As I say, it is critical to the ion transport, critical to QRS's function, and extremely important in the osteoporosis treatment. I might also add that it's very important also because the nervous system is built on calcium, and what we want to do there is support the nervous system. Let's have a look at what happens in an 8-minute treatment. Here we have a person who's never been on QRS before. You can see where we turn the field on and off. Well, the first thing that happens is the heart effect. The heartbeat slows, it relaxes, the frequency decreases. The blood pressure effect. The blood pressure decreases. Or in someone with low blood pressure, it increases. There's a normalizing effect. The blood flow speed. The blood flows faster. Blood viscosity. The viscosity of the blood decreases. In other words, the blood thins. Respiratory volume. humans immediately breathe more deeply. And further, on low settings, QRS stimulates the production of nitrogen monoxide. That's a very important vasodilator. A lot of work was done on it in the 1990s. The Nobel Peace Prize was given for it. So the production of nitrogen monoxide stimulates the vasodilation of the capillaries. And finally, there's an increase in the stripping rate. What happens is that oxygen adheres to the hemoglobin as it goes through the lungs, is carried to the capillaries, and what we do is increase the ability of the capillaries to strip oxygen off the hemoglobin. The scientists tell me that ion transport in an 8-minute QRS treatment is equivalent to 90 minutes of aerobic exercise or 3 hours of walking. And that's very significant for people unable to exercise. And in a little while I'm going to show you some lovely photographs in colour of bed sores. And it'll show you the situation where someone is immobile and the importance of the ion transport. But if you use QRS once or twice, it's unlikely that you're going to have a major effect, except in the situation of psychological disorders. Here we have a trial conducted at the University of Wuppertal on 700 experimentees. Professor Vanke was very disappointed at the fact that these young people had senile cells. They had a transmembrane potential on average of a 70-year-old. Too much TV, too much sitting around, too much computers, too much smoking, too much alcohol. But the good thing about being a young person is that you bounce back very quickly. So the trial was on 700 people, and you can see it goes out to about 16 weeks. In the centre of the screen you'll see the normal line, that thick black line. And you'll see not much happens in the first few days or even a week or so. But when we get out to around about a month, we see a normalisation of the pH. You see, most sick people are acidic, and so this makes them less acidic. It makes them more alkaline. Oxygen absorption increases and the stripping rate increases. Cholesterol starts to come down and the calcium-magnesium concentration goes up. So at 4 weeks, there's the effect. 8 weeks, a much better effect. 12 weeks, and when you get out to about 16 weeks, you can see there's a very large effect over a large number of people. And this is why the more you use QRS, the longer you use QRS, the better effect. This is one slide from the results of a Europe-wide study conducted in 1998 using QRS, and we're looking at the improvement trend. The number of indications or symptoms treated is on the left-hand scale. We have weeks, and we have 3 things that we're looking at. No complaint, meaning no symptoms. Improved, meaning better than it was when it started. And unchanged, no effect. So let's look what happened at 2 weeks. You can see in blue, no complaint. In other words, those problems have been solved during that period. Then the dark colour, the condition has been improved. But taking up most of that scale is unchanged. In other words, there's been no effect on the majority of people, and there are 550 odd indications in this trial. We look at 4 weeks, you can see there's more than a halving of the number of unchanged conditions. In other words, they've reduced by 1/2. 6 weeks, let's focus on that light colour, that light bar with the unchanged symptoms. And you can see it's coming down and down until we get out to about 16 weeks and there are only 2 or 3% of people who've had no change to their indication. You can see also at 16 weeks that the people who now have no symptoms or have improved symptoms are pretty well equal. This further reinforces the need to use QRS in the long term and the fact that QRS covers a very wide range of symptoms. We have a biofeedback device, and you can see it on the screen. It shows a woman sitting on a chair with a pillow behind her. She's holding the biofeedback device in the correct position. And when she pushes the button on the biofeedback device, it'll turn on the control unit, which will step through the settings in the basis program. Setting 1, 2, 3, etc., until it achieves the optimum setting for her. How does it work? Well, the electromagnetic field is absorbed as it passes through the bodies and is picked up by the sensor. After exhaustive study, the German company has found the optimum level of electromagnetic field reaching the sensor. And that means that the device will be individual for that person at that time of the day, because if she uses it in the morning, she'll have a different energy level. She'll perhaps be more stressed in the afternoon. But generally speaking, it ranges within about 3 settings on the QRS. It's very important, and very important for healthy people, because they can always use the optimum setting. This is the pen applicator. It plugs into the back of the control unit, just like the mat and pillow applicators, and it can focus on a point. There is no electromagnetic field emanating from the sides. You can hold it on a point and you can see the shape of the electromagnetic field. We're getting good results on tinnitus, using it on the ear, the nose, the eye. People are using it on carpal tunnel. And there's even one fellow who's found that it was better using the pen applicator on osteoarthritis of the ankle than was the pillow applicator. It can be used on acupuncture points and meridians. Professor Dr. Waldman was the director of Eurospace, and so we've done a lot of work with him. And this is heat photography. You see a green horse, and they've placed the QRS over the back of the horse, and you can see the change in temperature. Green cold, yellow warm, red is hot. 2 minutes into QRS, you can see it's turning yellow, and after QRS, there are red patches. So this shows a rise in surface temperature in comparison before and after QRS, as an expression of improved blood circulation of 1.2 degrees centigrade on average. In 8 minutes, the temperature at the surface of that horse has increased 1.2 degrees centigrade. You can see also that the mat remains black. It hasn't increased in temperature. And finally, it shows that QRS is not a placebo effect. Placebo effect can work with humans, but it can't work with a horse, because you can't tell a horse that it's going to become hot under the influence of the electromagnetic field of QRS. Here we have a thermographic of a person with low blood pressure. He's 43 years of age, and you can see, looking at the tips of the finger, the increase in the temperature. There's a rise in temperature through improved blood circulation of about 1.6 degrees centigrade. The systolic blood pressure has increased from 100 to 118, diastolic from 58 to 72. Due to the increase in peripheral blood volume, the oxygen supply rises and improves energy transport of important energy carriers to the cells. Here we have QRS at work on red blood cells of a 72-year-old with clumping of the red blood cells. This is very typical of diabetes patients. That's what their blood looks like in that top slide. This is done with dark field microscopy. Before QRS, the sticky blood in the shape of a roll of coins, of red blood cells. See all those red blood cells clinging together. After a single QRS therapy, red blood cells are visible and individually distinguishable. A large surface area achieved facilitates the exchange of oxygen. A lady from Switzerland with rheumatoid arthritis. Top 3 photographs demonstrate that she can't lie her hand flat, she can't make a fist. And after just a few weeks using QRS, she's able to lie her hand flat, make a fist, and no pain. We have a lady in Sydney who's been fully medicated for 30 years with rheumatoid arthritis. It took a year for QRS to get her off all her medication, including her cortisone. She said to me, "I feel so healthy. I feel so athletic." Her eyesight has improved, probably because of the lack of drugs, but also because of the relaxation of her muscles in her eyes. This same lady suffered from stress and depression quite severely. She told me that she was in a mental hospital for 1 month. And QRS has supported that to the extent that she no longer has that problem. So not only is it rheumatoid arthritis, it's helped, but a range of other things. A lady presented to Dr. Wolfram Hass in Germany with calcifying tendinitis. It's really on the left shoulder, and here you see some x-rays of that. It's the tendon that runs down the outside of the shoulder, and she had calcium actually in the tendon. He sent her off to an orthopedic specialist who gave her injections of cortisone and other painkillers, and after 4 months she came back to Dr. Hass. The pain was more intense, nothing had been achieved, and she was being slotted in for surgery. But the problem is they said she might lose some of the use of her arm. Dr. Hass put the pillow applicator behind her shoulder for 16 minutes, twice a day, on setting 10. The effect was, day 7, no painkillers. Day 8, no pain while resting, including at night. Day 14, 75% of the normal mobility range of the left arm was possible, free of pain. And at day 28, total mobility was achieved. In 6 months, the calcium was dissolved. You can see that in the top slide, the calcium, small amount of calcium. In the second slide, it's been decreased after 3 months by 75%, and there is no calcium at the end of 6 months. This has implications for calcium build-up in many places in the body, including with coronary arteries. And we have Dr. Hass, who has found using QRS with someone with a coronary stenosis, an 80% stenosis, he's been able to dissolve that in a period of 6 months safely, no pain, no operation, and cheaply, simply by putting the pillow behind the back. I told you about the bed sore, and here it is, one of many we have. This is a 72-year-old patient in a nursing home with a sacral decubitus ulcer. That ulcer is in the small of her back. It's 18 centimetres long, 9 centimetres wide, and 2 centimetres deep. It's stinking. By simply putting the mat on the bed and using it for 8 minutes twice a day, you can see what we've been able to achieve in the space of 3 months. It's now considerably smaller. It's flat, it's not 2 centimetres deep, it's flat, and it's healthy. But what we would like to do is get QRS onto nursing home and hospital beds so they don't have that problem of bed sores. So we are getting that oxygenated blood at higher velocity, of lower viscosity, around these sorts of parts of the body where pressure sores are likely to develop. You can see also here the implications for post-surgical recuperation. The QRS warranty is 5 years parts and labour. We have extremely few problems, but you may rest assured that if you have a problem, it's our problem to fix. And we carry out our repairs locally. It's only on a couple of occasions we've had to send parts back to Germany. I'm sure this presentation will have given you many questions to ask. Have a look at our website, contact our QRS consultants, give us a call. We love hard questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll go back to Germany and find out the answer for you. QRS is not a miracle cure. It's a very important health management tool. Very important in the 21st century, where there's a move away from simply drug-based medicines into modalities that are more natural. QRS is part of all modalities. It's energy medicine, it's science-based energy medicine, and as we say, discover life's energy.
Als durch den Kaffee zu sich genommen hat und demzufolge dickt natürlich das Blut ein. Das ist völlig logisch.
Wie viel Eimer waren das?
4 Tassen.
4 Tassen.
Mindestens 4 Tassen, ne? Auch wieder Geldrollen drin, noch und nöcher. Außerdem ist der hier viel zu klein. Das beginnende mikrozytäre Anämie, Eisenmangel. Gut, dann sollen wir das mal als Bestandsaufnahme genügen. Dann würde ich sagen, nachher. Und auch hier sehen wir wieder Geldrollen, Geldrollen, Geldrollen. Und ich würde sagen, keine gravierende Verbesserung. Es könnte sein, es sind vereinzelt jetzt ein paar zu sehen. Vorhin waren es nur Geldrollen, die waren ziemlich groß, lang, die Geldrollen. Ja? Und jetzt sind es mehr vereinzelt kleinere Geldrollen und vereinzelt sind auch mal einige Erythroziten einzeln. Das war vorher auch nicht der Fall.
Ich war 10 Minuten.
Ja? Mhm. Also so eine Minimalverbesserung ist auch da wieder zu sehen, aber so der richtige Aha-Effekt, der fehlt natürlich da.
Stufe 10.
Memory, Print, jetzt habe ich erstmal ein Bild raus, ne?
Schön. Kurz vor 12. Was ist das hier jetzt, was wir hier sehen?
Das ist eine Eiweißzusammenballung. Und diese Eiweißzusammenballung, die taucht immer dann, das sind ganz spezifische Eiweiße, die ergeben unterschiedliche Formen, wenn die sich verbinden. Ja? Und diese Eiweißzusammenballung, also diese Form hier, also diese unterschiedlichen Eiweiße werden freigesetzt, wenn Störungen vorliegen im Bereich von Haut, Lunge oder Knochen. Ja? Da werden dann verschiedene Stoffwechselendprodukte freigesetzt, will ich mal sagen. Ja? Und die ballen sich zusammen und das kann man sehen. Da kann man sagen, gut, in dem Bereich liegt eine Störung vor, wobei natürlich dieser Bereich riesig groß ist. Ne? Das ist wieder der Nachteil mit der Aussage.
Wow,
So, und einzelne, ne?
super.
Ja. Richtig. Ja, ne? Auch wesentlich einfacher, bisschen Eisenmangel, bisschen Hämoglobinmangel mit drin, aber ansonsten.
Diese blaue Ringe, was
So.
bedeutet das? Das ist also
Wo?
wirklich, diese Sound.
Ist also beim Altgerät auf Stufe 10
Das hier?
auch Vereinzelung.
Das ist Hämoglobinmangel.
Das ist Hämoglobinmangel, ja?
Hm?
Also beim Altgerät war jetzt auf Stufe 10 auch Vereinzelung.
Auch eine Verbesserung, richtig. Ganz klar. Hm?
Also
Gut.
ist der Unterschied zwischen Alt- und Neugerät eigentlich nicht sichtbar.
Ja, machen wir
Nicht
Bilder.
momentan so zu sehen, sagen wir es mal so, ja. Okay.